Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about TTRPGs. We're almost at the end here. Now, as has been all week, today, first up for TTRPG, the last blessing mug from my party that we got, or that they gave me, when we went ahead and wrapped up our 4-year-long campaign. Inside of it, we have the last blessing tea that they made me. It is gunpowder green and lemon. It smells delicious. Love it so much. We are very close to the end here, which means we are very close to the end of our week. And by that, I mean we're on the last day of the week. I'll finish this by the end of the episode today. I promise. Let's go ahead and let's dive straight in. Day 5 of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Last day of Pathfinder. We are today talking about miscellaneous stuff. Just stuff that came up. Stuff that I think is important, but I didn't really know where else to put it, or I forgot to put it in places as I went along, which is the case with a couple of these. But that's okay. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cover it here today. So let's go ahead and let's just dive straight on into it. Before I get into the list, I do want to go ahead and I want to give, once again, a special shout out to the Archive of Nethys and Path Builder 2E. Those two online resources have been phenomenally helpful for me in trying to understand this game so that I can present it to you guys, so that I can go ahead and take it to my groups and try and figure out if it's something we want to do, if we want to play a different game, or what the deal is. So check them out if you're attempting to learn this game. They are so helpful. All the information is there. Additionally, to the free rules online. That's just not a thing for a lot of, and by a lot of games, I mean D&D, which is the biggest one, but also several other games. That's just not the case. So the fact that they are available for free online, it's super helpful. So check those out. I cannot emphasize it enough. But let's get into it. These are some of the things that you may have heard about from Pathfinder that you were not super sure about, or I didn't talk about because I didn't think about them when I was doing the thing, specifically when I was talking about like the 3-action economy and stuff like that. So first thing that I want to touch on real quick, hero points and how they sort of relate to advantage and disadvantage. As far as I am aware and can tell from this 670 odd page book, there is no advantage or disadvantage in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. You might be going, oh god, no, oh wait, what? Hang with me, I promise. There's no advantage or disadvantage in this, as far as I can tell. There are just, stacked assists and proficiencies and bonuses and stuff like that. Hero points are kind of the way around that. Hero points are like inspiration, except you have to use the reroll. It is a reroll of a d20 roll. So you go ahead and you roll your die and you don't succeed on whatever it is. You go, God, okay, let me do it again. And you reroll using a hero point. That is basically what it is. It is one of the rewards that DMs can give out, similar to Inspiration in 5e. It is something that players can accumulate and use in things. Honestly, I'm trying to remember if you can have more than one at a time. In my mind you can, and in my mind I would use it as like currency with my players. If they wanted to try and do something crazy, I'd say yes, you have to spend like X number of hero points to try it, and if you succeed then X happens, this amazing thing happens. If you do not, this other not so great thing happens. Whatever. You have to talk to your GM about whether or not they're really using them, because similar to Inspiration, it is technically, it's not optional, but like it's tough to award them in that way. But in the book here, it says that you gain one at the beginning of every session. So it is a meta thing that you go ahead and you gain at the beginning of a session. So again, check with your GM to see if they actually are using that. But that is sort of the like workaround for the advantage-disadvantage situation. You have ability to re-roll sometimes. But again, you have to use the second one for this one. Death and dying. I guess more specifically dying and wounded. If you are familiar with 5th edition, you know how death saving throws work. Similar general concept here. Now, you don't have exactly the same setup here, but you do not have the negative hit point tracking that I believe Pathfinder 1 and older editions of D&D have. This is still similar to 5e, where you get knocked down to 0 and you're at 0, unless you go way, way below and you are killed outright. So, in being knocked to 0 hit points, you gain the condition of dying 1. That might sound weird and confusing and mechanical. It is, I promise. It's not that bad. You gain the condition of dying 1. And your initiative also then automatically sets to before the turn of the individual that knocked you down. So you do not have the ability to instantly, after they knock you out, fail one of your death throws. Instead, your entire party has the ability to go before you have to make that saving throw, just in case one of them can get to you and pick you back up. So if you are knocked down and you have dying 1 and you roll your check, it is a straight check. There is no modifier to it, similar to D&D with a death saving throw, except the DC for the check is 10 plus your dying level. So if you're at dying 1, the DC is 11. If you fail that check, you go to dying 2. And then your next check is DC 12 on your straight D20 roll. If you succeed, you reduce your dying condition by 1. So if you are at dying 2 and you succeed, you go down to dying 1, and your check is now at 11. If you're at dying 1 and you succeed, you get rid of the dying condition, you are stable, and similar to 5e, you're just unconscious and you're sitting there. If you are picked up, any amount of healing will pick you up. If you are picked up, you gain the wounded condition because you have been brought to the brink of death and brought back. The wounded condition, you gain wounded 1. If you are knocked down again, you automatically gain levels of dying plus the levels of wounded that you have. So if you have wounded 1 and you get knocked down, you're automatically set to dying 2. So your wounds will stack up. You don't want to just like bobber up and down at the back end there. That's not good for you in this game. So if you are wounded too many times, you can just be killed outright by being knocked down to 0 hit points. But hopefully that is not going to be the case for you. Now, you might be asking, well, where is the bottom of dying? Dying 4 is it. That's the end of it. So basically it is 3 failures and you're dead. Similar to how 5e works. So if you are rolling and you cannot get back up, you are killed outright when you reach dying 4. Which is, again, a weird, crunchy, like, descriptor, but it's not that complicated, honestly, all around. You just have to keep track of wounded. And that really only is in effect if you are going up and coming, or going down and coming back up often in a tight period of time, because resting will help you sort of get rid of that, and you will be able to restore yourself to normal. So that is how death and dying works in this one. Which brings me to a very good natural healing transition. Resting in this game. Similar to one D&D playtest, if you've been paying attention to that, you can only benefit from the effects of a long rest once every 24 hours, which I think is a weird way to do it, but that's okay. I get it at the same time. But if you wake up and you run a marathon, you're probably going to want to take a nap afterwards. I would, I think. I haven't run a marathon, so I don't know. But you regain hit points equal to your character level times your constitution modifier. So you get, your con modifier is 3, and you are level 7, you gain 21 hit points back. You don't fully reset. You don't do any of that. That is not the way that it works. I also believe, pretty confident, again, I've been ramming so much information in my brain, there is no short rest anymore. Instead, there is the ability to actually just like treat your own wounds, ability to naturally heal yourself. With a medicine check, you can take the treat wounds. It's not an action because it takes 10 minutes to do, but you can sit down and you can use treat wounds on yourself. A success on that restores 2d8 hit points, and you remove the wounded condition, which is really great. Failure does nothing. This takes 10 minutes. You can do it 1 time per hour. That 10 minutes is inside of the hour, so you can do it once every 60 minutes instead of once every 70, which is a good little distinction that they made there. So you have the ability to heal yourself up naturally, but it takes you a while to actually do. Your sleeping gives you a chunk of hit points back, but it doesn't give you all of them back. So more numbers you have to keep track of, but it's not that bad. I promise, it's really not. Now, talking about success and failure with a check like that, I want to talk about the way that this system handles criticals. This is one that I probably should have talked about when I had skills, but whatever. We're here now. And talking about DCs especially. The criticals on this are not Natural 1, natural 20. It is instead 10 over the DC and 10 under the DC. So, if your DC is set to 20 and you roll a 31, you get a critical success. Straight up. If your DC is set to 15, you get a 25. Critical success. If your DC is 15 and you get a 4, critical failure. And that's a really good way to do it, because it gives you this big wide cushion of success and failure, and then if you go past that, you have done so well or so badly that an extra effect happens. With the treat wounds example that we were just talking about, if you critically succeed, you gain 4d8 hit points instead of 2d8. And I keep saying you can treat wounds for somebody else. If you critically failure, whoever your target is, actually takes 1d8 damage instead. And then has to wait an hour before they can be under the effects of treat wounds again. So it adds a little bit of like, oh god, what'll happen here? But the same thing can be applied to saving throws for like spells and stuff like that. And this is actually a homebrew rule that I've played around with a couple of times in 5th edition, and so I'm glad and sort of vindicated almost to see it in here. Where if you critically succeed on a saving throw, you take no damage. If you succeed, you take the half that it talks about or whatever. If you fail, you take the normal damage, and if you critically fail, you take double. And so I have used this in like one-shots for 5e before, where if you roll a nat 1 on a like spell save, you take double. If you roll a nat 20, you take no damage. Same concept, just on a sliding scale with the way that criticals work in Pathfinder 2e. So I really like this system. I think it's really cool, and I am looking forward to being able to implement it. Because I like the range that it actually gives you, instead of it being one number static on the die, where you have a 5% chance of either doing so well or so bad. I like the sliding scale. Then the last thing I really want to touch on is the magic system. I talked about how I didn't love the way that spellcasting was set up. I still don't. That hasn't changed. But I want to talk about the systems that they have here. 5e. It obviously has class spell lists. If you are paying attention to the 1D&D playtest, they have different schools of magic spell lists. That is the way that Pathfinder is set up. I didn't realize that is the way Pathfinder is set up, but it is the way that they are set up. They have 4 different types of magic. They have arcane, divine, occult, and natural. So you are, depending on the class that you take, you are using that school of magic. And you have access to the spells in that school of magic when you go to pick your spells, prepare your spells, however your class actually operates with spells. And the other interesting thing about this is that there are 10th level spells that you get at like 19th and 20th level, which are really cool and really powerful, but that's like where Wish comes in. That's where Time Stop comes in. Like the ones that you look at in 5th edition and you go, wow, these 9th level spells are all over the place. The upper end ones are just in 10th level spells in Pathfinder 2e. So that, I like that. I think it's nice, and it also gives you one more thing to look forward to after level 17 if you're a spellcaster in this game. But I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about how the actual casting works in this, because I mentioned it earlier, talked about not liking it, and so I want to go ahead and I want to run through it real quick. So, and I'm sorry, they have flown out of my brain which classes operate in which way, but there are some classes, the prepared ones, as I'll call them here, where you go ahead and you prepare spells. And then there are I'm going to call them learned. It's not the same as learned and prepared in 5th edition. You're just going to have to bear with me. The learned ones, where you learn your spells for your spell slots. The way that the prepared ones work in Pathfinder, again, I don't love this system, but I think it's important to kind of get out there, is that you prepare different numbers of spells at different levels. Now, if you want to cast that spell, or if you are then required to cast those spells at that level. So if you want to cast Fireball, and you prepare it at 3rd level, you can only cast it at 3rd level. If you want to cast Fireball at 4th level, you have to have prepared it at 4th level. Now, if you prepare it at 4th level, you can only then cast it at 4th level, not at 3rd level. If you prepare it at both 3rd level and 4th level, then you can cast it at either 3rd level or 4th level. I think that's the best example of what I can like give you there to sort of understand what I mean with that one. It's kind of clunky, but it is more flexible than the other one that I'm going to get into in a second here. But you have to prepare the same spell at different levels if you want to be able to use it at different levels, which is not great. I appreciate the 5e flexibility in that one, where it's just like, you got your spells prepared, you know them in your head, and you got these different levels of magic, just like spray them out of your body. So I don't love that, but you do get way more spell slots in Pathfinder than you do in 5e. So, you know, a little bit of give, a little bit of take there. Now, the learned, quote unquote, again, pretty heavy quote unquote here, because it's my word, not the actual word, casters in this one lock their spell slots to different spells every long rest. Important. Not just permanently, every long rest. So if you are packing your bag for the day, if you're a wizard and you're packing your bag, and you want to cast Magic Missile 3 different times, like, you will then have to lock Magic Missile to those 3 different spell slots. You don't get to have, you know, your list of first level spells and then your slots, and you get to pick which one goes in where, like the prepared ones do. You have to say, I will be casting Shield twice today, and I will be casting Fireball twice today, and then Lightning Bolt once. Like, you have to lock in to that. And if you don't put a spell in one of those spell slots, you don't get to cast it that day. And that's just the way that it works. And I don't like that. I know it works for some people. It's not my thing. But good news, if you're hearing this and you're going, God, why would I ever want to use that system? I'm just going to stick to 5e. Good news, there is an advanced player's guide, I want to say is what it's in. There is a section on advanced spellcasting in a book somewhere. I don't know which book it is. I think it's the Advanced Player's Guide, and I think it's titled Advanced Spellcasting, where it basically says in it, just use the 5e system. Like, it lays it out with how it works, but it basically just says use the 5e system, and then it has you reduce spell slots accordingly, because you get so many spell slots in Pathfinder. Like, when you hit 17th level, you automatically get 3 9th level spell slots. If you're a caster, a full caster. So, you get what I mean here. You get what I mean. I don't love the magic system, but there is a workaround for it. I think that the 5e system is actually very good for that, and so realistically, I will be looking into that, seeing if it is what I want to be using instead, in the way that it's laid out for Pathfinder, and then probably running forward with that one instead of the way that it's set up in the book. Because the way that it's set up in the book is honestly the most confusing part of this entire book for me, and this entire book is 600 and change pages. If I got hung up on that one thing, I think I'm doing all right. So that brings us to the end of Pathfinder week here. Once again, please correct me if I have gotten anything wrong here. I am trying to learn the game along with everybody here. I think it's a really cool game. I think it's really fun from what I've seen. And I'm really excited to get to run it and play it and see how it works better, because quite frankly, I think there's going to be a lot of people going to it, and I think that it is going to be sort of this renaissance happening where Pathfinder comes out as a big player, in addition to whatever open source game Paizo is making, in addition to whatever Kobold Press's Black Flag is going to be. I think it's going to be really cool. So check it out. Check out any of the games that I'm talking about this whole entire season, and expand your repertoire a little bit. So that is everything I have for you guys today. So thank you guys so much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. I know that I haven't been using that sign off this week, but I really appreciate it. If you are interested in supporting the show, the best way to do that is subscribing either on YouTube or on the podcasting platform that you are consuming on. So thank you guys so very much for hanging with me this week, and sort of running through this experimental pilot week of Pathfinder with me. I don't know exactly which one I'm going to do next week. I think it might be Kids on Bikes, maybe? Probably Kids on Bikes. Less dense, for sure, but we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it. So, with all that said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and don't forget, everybody, drink tea, play TTRPGs, and keep on rolling.